Right, hello everyone. So today we will look at strategic cost management techniques. There are a number of strategic cost management techniques businesses nowadays they follow for competitive advantages, to gain competitive advantage in the market. So we will look at target costing, we will look at life cycle costing, and also we will look at Kaizen costing. So before we start, so please can you click on this link and watch this video. So the first technique we will look at is target costing. Again, after you watching the first video, can you please also look at this or watch this video which is related to target costing. So what about target costing? Let's have a look. So first of all, you need to understand that target costing was used first in 1960 in Japan by Toyota, the car company Toyota, and after that it was spread to other countries, and a lot of businesses they use it nowadays, and these are examples such as Sony, Nissan, IKEA, HP, etc. So again, what's about target costing? Before we look at target costing, let's have a look at traditional cost and plus pricing. Now let's have a look. Any cost, if you want to calculate the price as a business, if you want to calculate the price, so what you need to do, first you need to find the total cost, how much the total cost. Okay, let's have a look. We have, for example, material 50 pence, we have labor 20 pence, that's 70 pence, and we have manufacturing overhead 30 pence, so equal £1. So the total cost equal £1. If you added up markup cost, markup percentage of the top of the cost, for instance, let's say 50 pence. Let's say 50 pence is the markup. Markup is the profit, how much you want to gain as a business. So £1, if you add up 50 pence on the top of it, so that's equal what? £1 plus 50 equal £1.50. This is the price of the product, the selling price. So the business will sell this product or this unit as £1.50. So they cover the cost of £1, and they are making a profit of 50 pence per unit. As you see, what's going on here, the focus is internally. So they don't they simply follow traditional technique of costing, which they calculate the cost, how much profit they're gonna make on the top of the cost, and they price the product. However, nowadays it's really becomes really different with the competition nowadays is high in the market, and look how many companies are closing down. So in terms of target costing, the formula is switched. What does that mean? This means instead of starting off the target cost, or starting from the cost, the total cost, and then you add up a markup percentage of the profit and you end up with a selling price, actually the first step, we will start with setting up a selling price. Can you imagine? Before any type of cost, you calculate the cost, you start with the selling price. Yeah, you start with the selling price. Of course, you need to look at the market and see how much would be the selling price, and you, of course, as a business, they want to put a lower price in order to attract customers. So the focus is external. So we start with the selling price, and after that you need to deduct the desired profit or desired return, which is a percentage of the sales margin. The sales margin. So of course the selling price, let's say £2, the selling price £2 per unit. If you take away, you deduct the profit, let's say the profit 50 pence, so you will end up with what? The target cost would be £1.50. So as a business, you target this cost as £1.50 even before you're looking at the cost itself, and before you manufacturing the products. Can you see now? So this is the selling price. You take away the profit and you reach £1.50. As a business, they have to achieve the target cost of £1.50. They have to achieve it. And of course, not all businesses, or not every time you achieve the £1.50 as a target cost. And this is why we have something called cost gap, when there is a difference between the target cost and the actual cost. Now, again, how does it work, target costing? Okay, so remember, now we need to collect the customer reviews about this specific product, and these views, we need to focus more on something called value engineering. Value engineering means we need to look at only those features that are value to customers. These features, we will include them in this product. And of course, once we have this feature, we include in this product, that will attract customers to buy this product. At this point, we will set up a selling price, and also we'll set up a target profit. So after that, we will set up a target cost, how much will be the target cost, and we try to achieve this target cost. Of course, as I did say in the previous slide, could be difference between the actual cost and the target cost, and that's called cost gap. And there are some ways, of course, to reduce the cost gap or rid of it. So again, involves target costing, involves a target cost, involves setting a target cost by subtracting the desired return from a competitive market price. And this is why I mentioned this is opposite of what the traditional costing, which is the cost plus pricing. Okay. Now the question, let's have a look. If there is a company here, a company is considering launching a new product to the market, the market price will be 200. That's why they're saying the selling price would be £200. The company requires a return or profit 40% of what of the selling price, which is 200. So 200 multiply 40%. Of course, this would be the required return or the required profit. Right, and the question asks you to calculate the target cost. Of course, if we know the required return, you just take away from the selling price in order to achieve the target cost. So let's have a look. So the target, or actually the second one is better. The required return, £200 multiply 40%, £80. So the company wants to achieve a required return of £80 per unit for this specific product. If you take away 200 from it, so you will end up with a target cost with £120. £120. Or straight away, just go and put 200 times 60%. Why 60%? Because 40% for the required return, of course, the remaining 60% would be the target cost. Straight away, if you don't want to do the second method. Okay, but again, that means the target cost, the company needs to work in order to achieve a target cost of £120. Right, let's have a look at this question. This is for you. Please go try it, attempt this question, and come back and look at the answer here. If this selling price for product X is set at £550 for each unit, and we expect that the selling or the sales for the next year will be 800 units. So a return of 30%, this is a profit of 30% on the investment of £500,000. any product X will be required in the coming year. And again, the question asks you to calculate the target cost for product X. So first of all, we need to look at the required return. So if you multiply the £500,000, if you multiply by 30%, that comes with what? With the return, the required return, which is the £150,000. So the required return is £150,000. So that's £150,000, the required return. You take it away from the sales amount, in order to reach to the target cost. So let's have a look. The sales revenue would be the £550 per unit. You multiply by 800 units, which is our expectation for next year to achieve 800 units. If you multiply it by £550, that goes for £440,000 is the total sales value. If you take away or deduct the £150,000, that required return, you ended up with the target cost of £290,000. £290,000 is the target cost here. Okay. So how about the cost per unit? The 290,000, if you divide it by number of units, in this case, you should be able to find the target cost per unit, which is £362.50. If you go to the answers, so the answers should be D, 362.50, because the question asks you to calculate the target cost for each unit. Right, now, as we agreed that not all the time that the target cost should equal the estimated cost or the actual cost. If there is a difference between the target cost and the estimated cost, so it's called cost gap. So we have a cost gap. So now, as a business, there are some ways or some strategies in order to reduce the cost gap, right? Remember, first of all, the cost gap, estimated cost minus target cost equal the cost gap. So remember, as I mentioned, the cost gap should be reduced in the early stage of a product design. So there are some stages, as I mentioned, and not stages, sorry, some strategies. So we'll need to look at. Let's have a look. Would you first suggest possible ways to close the target cost gap? Anything? Let's have a look. Here we go. Right. So anything you look or you think, okay, material, right? Can we, right, change a supplier, a cheaper supplier, and bring maybe cheaper material? But again, we do not compromise with the quality. That's very, very important. Very important. In terms of labor, again, can we bring higher, maybe low skills labor instead of high skills labor? Do we really need high skills labor? Or maybe low skills labor can do the job? Again, that's something we need to think to look at. In terms of value engineering, if you remember when I explained value engineering, I explained it in a way that we will include only what? Only the features which attract the customers, only the desired features. The product features which customers look at, and this is called value engineering. Value engineering. Again, let's look at, for instance, if we can increase the volume. As you know, increase the activities or increase the volume, production volume, that can reduce the fixed cost per unit, and that's what we call economies of scale. Can we do this? If we can do, it's amazing. Another suggestion would be, can we buy the part assembled components instead of assemble them and hire labor to do this? That's something we need to look at. And another one, let's have a look at the supply chain and find ways in order to reduce the cost. Again, these are suggestions we can look at in order to reduce or eliminate the cost gap between the target cost and the estimated cost. Right, so the value engineering, I did mention it briefly, but again, one of the important things you need to look at the value engineering, and I did mention that the value engineering, what is to understand which features, right, which features of the product are essential to customer perceived quality and which not. So think about it. If you want to buy anything, right? Okay, if you want to buy a fridge or washing machine or anything, actually, TV, right? You always look at what features you need, isn't it? You look at what features really you require in order to buy fridge, for example. Yeah, do you require in fridge or freezer, for example, freezer? Would you require that manually defrost it yourself, or nowadays there's automatic defrosting, so you don't need to do anything? You want alarm with the doors keeps opening, or you don't want an alarm? As you see, there's a lot going on here in terms of features. So again, as a value engineering, we need to understand, as a business, they need to understand the feature, which features really of the product are essential to customers to perceive the quality, so in order to reduce the cost gap as much as they can. But again and again and again, the idea or the focus should be reducing the cost and not adding more features onto the customers, because this will make the product or the more expensive there. So what is the implication of target costing? Here we go. I did explain it, but let's go through them quickly. Again, implication could be on cost control. Think about it now. As a business, when they have target costing, this means, right, this is our target cost. We are going to achieve, that's £150, okay? £150 is our target cost. We will work hard to achieve this target cost. Yeah, so how it can be achieved? We mentioned many strategies can be achieved. Cheap material, do not compromise with the quality. Change supplier. Labor, cheap labor, do we need high skills labor to do the job, or we are happy with or satisfied with low grade or low skills labor? Again, that's something you need to look at. And of course, if we really achieve this target costing, that will help us to set up a better price. A price can attract customers if there is a demand. And nowadays, look at the competition nowadays. It's crazy, absolutely madness. Can you see? There's a lot of products there. The competition is really high. And as a business, if they don't really gain competitive advantage in the market, how can they sustain? And one of the cost techniques they can do is target costing. Target costing is a technique can help the customer to gain competitive advantage. These all to go with today's environment, and it's very important nowadays as a business they look at the cost techniques in order to adopt them. Okay, Let's have a look at question number 2. Again, I would like you to go and do the question in your own, and after that come back and see the answers. Let's have a look. A company wants to calculate the target cost for a new TV. That's fine. The TV will be £200. That's the selling price, and the company requires a 10% margin. So that's 10% of the selling price. So £200, if you multiply by 10%, this is a £20 is the margin profit, or the profit required, the profit. So this means automatically you will see the target cost would be the £200, the selling price, minus the desired profit, £20 equal £180. Straight away, the target cost would be £180. So the cost of the new TV, now that we'll now look at the estimation, right? The cost would be direct material is £100, direct labor 5 hours. It does require 5 hours at £15 per hour. So in this case, if you multiply 5 hours multiply £15, this is a £75. £75. So 100 plus 75 and plus variable overheads, £20, so equal £195. In this case, straight away, if you see that the target cost is £180, and the estimated cost will be £195. Can you see now we are above of £15 per unit, £15 per unit. So we need to suggest some ways in order to close the cost gap. So again, if you look at the answer, exactly as I explained here, we have the target cost of £180 as a target cost, and the estimated cost is £195, and as you see, there is a £15 extra on the top of the cost, and the business, as a business, they need to look at some ways in order to reduce the cost gap as much as they can. We did explain this, if you remember. We did introduce some suggestion, and a lot of them, and we did say, for example, cheap material. We did say around don't compromise with the material. However, we did say about cheap stuff, that look at low grade or low skills labor. Also remember that you need to train staff. Maybe if you train staff, that will be, the operation will be more efficient, and of course more efficient, that reduce labor time, for instance, idle time. We also look at more efficient in technology. Of course, technology plays a big role nowadays in order to reduce the waste, material waste, and also process the time to produce the units. Okay, so also we need to look at the cutting the non-value added activities. If you remember the value engineering concept, which we need to focus on in the features which customer perceived. So these are possible suggestions you need to think about, and you need to write in the exam in order to reduce the cost gap, or eliminate actually the cost gap between the target cost and the estimated cost. And that's to do with all the target costing technique. Is the first technique you need to look at and understand, and you need to appreciate how it's important for the business to adopt this technique. So now next we will look at the life cycle costing.